Update 33 is here for the Lord of the Rings Online, and there is a lot going on with this update, and today's focus is going to be on the patch notes that we have. Now, of course, the big things in this update are going to be the new Yondershire zone. There's also the long-awaited monetization update with some great changes, and the 15th anniversary and all the stuff coming with that. Now, technically, by the time this video is up, the game might still be in maintenance on April 20th, Wednesday. And the game is expected, the servers are expected to be back up by 1 p.m. Eastern time. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the actual patch notes. And the first thing is the 15-year anniversary. If you did not see my last video, there are a whole bunch of things coming with that, and I recommend you checking that out. But it says to make sure you log in between 10 a.m. Eastern on April 20th, that's today, patch day, and 3 a.m. Eastern on May 11th, that's a little bit from now, to collect your happy 15th anniversary gifts. Ton of stuff there. It is really insane and really crazy. Along with the 15-year anniversary, there's of course additions to the festival. There's the new Of Crystal Resolve cosmetic set and a whole bunch of different things. There's also corgis. That is a new cosmetic pet in the game. And as I mentioned earlier, I feel like they're just the perfect pet for hobbits. I really don't know why, but it just makes so much sense to me. That's a little bit weird. And then the big thing with this update, or big new piece of content to the game, is going to be the Yondershire zone. Yondershire is going to be a level 20 to 23 zone, which is a little bit of an odd level range. And similar to the Shire, it is a Hobbit themed zone. This is going to be included with VIP if you are a subscriber, or you can buy it in the LOTRO store as a quest pack if you are not. Now, it does note a few ways that you can get to Yondershire, but you'll likely get a breadcrumb quest to start the new zone. I also realized that I never got around to doing a journey through the Yondershire video, so that might be coming in the future, but if you're interested, I did do a pretty in-depth stream on exploring Yondershire if you're interested in more information on that for content I have. Now, the other big thing coming is the monetization update in Update 33, and this will include all the stuff from the original game's launch up to Helm's Deep will now be free and included in the free-to-play version of the game. And more in line with other MMOs, if you are a subscriber, if you are a VIP, you will get everything but the latest expansion, which right now is Goonabad. You'll get everything but that included in the subscription. Okay, so now for the regular patch notes type patch notes. So one thing that I've seen some people complain about is the 32-bit version will actually be, they're ending the support of that in the future, distant future sort of. And by January 1st, 2023, so starting next year, it will no longer be supported, the 32-bit clients. And from now until then, or at least from May 18th until then, they recommend going ahead and switching to the 64-bit client, as some features might not work in the 32-bit client. I always recommend the 64-bit client. So if you do happen to be stuck on older hardware and software, you do have a little bit of time to work that out to try to get on the 64-bit client. Moving on, we can go through the class changes. There are quite a lot of class changes. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll here, make sure there's nothing major before we get into that. And I will say that I'm going to have a video dedicated, at least I'm planning to have a video dedicated to not only the class changes, just a more in-depth look at the class changes, but also the individual classes. I'm hoping to get to all that. We will see, but just a general overview. Minor fixes for classes like the Beorning, Burglar, Captain, Guardian, Hunter, and champions received a minor nerf, and then wardens had a little bit of change to the determination skill for the free peoples. But the big changes are going to be brawler buff. Brawler's damage got pretty decent buff. I don't know if it will quite be viable damage for endgame, but they did get a pretty good buff, and at the very least it'll be a better experience in terms of damage on the brawler, so that is nice. And their damage currently, especially when you look at it in the endgame group context, it is pretty low. Champions, I think I mentioned, got a minor nerf. It's mainly with Blade Wall, but actually the redline, their strike skills, in particular the trait Strong Arm Swings, will now be improved for single target with the strike skills. Moving on, the Lore Master got, I would consider it a pretty significant rework. I'm actually super excited for it. While some of the stuff they lose is a little bit sad to me, and yes, Sikkim is going to be phased out. Rest in peace to Sikkim. It was a very fun skill and I love the ability. It did have some funkiness going on with it, so I can see why they phased it out. It caused a lot of lag and it was sometimes annoying to work with that ability, and it's been replaced with the Murder of Crows, which is a new cooldown, and it it is impactful. That skill is crazy, so hopefully in the future I'll have a video with more details on that. But as it says here, inflicts enormous damage, I think that is actually an understatement. It does enormous damage, to be redundant. So yeah, with the Lore Master and other general things, Burning Embers and how that dot works has changed, and all these skills that work with Burning Embers have changed. They've also changed Fierce Lightning, and they've just done some general performance passes on the Lore Master skills that apply to all these specs, not just red line, not just blue line, and not just yellow line. But so yeah, personally to me, Lore Master is the most exciting, but that is to not downplay some of the changes coming to Minstrel, where their damage has just been generally buffed. It's just broad buff for the red line would just be my TLDR for this whole thing right here, in particular red line damage. It looks like in the crafting section, it's mainly bug fixes and just some consistency fixes there. And in the items, they have actually added some new traceries. So this is of a bit of interest that we have new set bonuses for some World of Craft traceries. These are going to be the plain stat traceries, as I call them, but it looks like the perfect accuracy that has been renamed to heroic alacrity that will now apply a set bonus of -3% attack speed, so you attack a bit faster. There's also one for crit chance plus 3% crit chance, and then you have physical and tact mitigation. It's really weird that they have physical and then shorten tact. They shorten tactical to tact. So that's just a little bit odd. It catches me a little bit off guard there, but anyway, it just means physical and tactical mitigation. And there's also one for outgoing healing and one for incoming healing. I'm noticing some inconsistencies with just the way that these articles are formatted. I wonder if they're still getting used to the new system. But notice like perfect recovery is not on a new line. It has a dash here instead of being on a new like bullet point. But moving on, we can get to the new Beorning traceries. They did add some new traceries. They have all these ones. Just quickly to get through it, there's counter dodge and counter attack damage as a single tracery shake free cooldown. I believe that's gets you out of crowd control. Then slash damage, thrash damage, nature's mend healing, and encouraging roar instant heal. They have also updated a couple other traceries for the Beorning, it looks like. And then oh, this is also in the Beorning section, crippling stings. They made that more consistent. In the next section, we have quests and adventures areas, and I'm honestly a little bit confused by what's going on here with the Anglemyth Aethel acting the same as other regions do regarding event-based and festival-based effects / bonuses. Anglemyth Aethel will be consistent is the whole point of that. Also, something really weird in the patch notes. They have Fate of Gundabad section here, and then subsections for that. They have Pit of Stonejaws. Okay, that is a Fate of Gundabad zone. Then they have Black Book of Mordor. That is totally unrelated to Fate of Gundabad. So I know I'm not really going through these notes as much. I'm just nitpicky about some of the way it's formatted, but I just thought that was a little bit interesting. And to quickly summarize this section, just looks like a lot of bug fixes and consistency fixes, which is pretty typical for the quests and adventures area section. Some interesting things to point out is there's a Hungry Hobbit patrol that has been adjusted in Little Delving. I'm guessing that is related to Yondershire, where Little Delving has been opened up. It is no longer a closed off delving. Something that is of interest for people that run missions is the bonus legendary items boost. The option you can select for that will give you an incomparable tracery. It will be a random teal tracery, it sounds like, but you'll get that instead of heritage runes, which is quite nice. And I still don't know exactly what this means, but they dug out Hobbit Hole and Breeland. I don't know if that's something we have to try to find or really what is going on there, to be honest. If anybody does know, please do comment. I'd be interested in hearing about that. Now for the final section, we have miscellaneous changes and patch notes, and something of interest here is for the remaining 22 festivals, the dyes that were bartered for mithril coins last year can now be acquired per appropriate festival tokens this year. Now the dyes that were available for festival tokens last year, not mithril coins, but festival tokens last year, they can now be available for mithril barter. And I'm guessing this is going to be something they continue with in the future, where it's like every other year they switch which dyes are barterable for either mithril coins, which is premium currency, or festival tokens, which is the ones you can earn in game from doing festival activities. Seems like they'll alternate those every other year is what I'm guessing this is hinting at for the future. future at least, and having that be a nice consistent system, which I personally like, and not just having like all old dies just always be mytho coins, because that would be annoying. Of note, the subscribers buff and town services, it is confirmed that both of those will be 2 weeks, just because the other part of the patch notes was a little bit vague about that, so that is good. Also, this is kind of interesting, the Valor 130 trait points minstrel, that will give the correct amount of clash trait points and stack with previous Valor boost 120 use. I don't know if people were running into issues with that, I really hope not, but it's better that it's going to be consistent and work like the other classes in the future. I'm kind of interested how that happened, how that issue happened for the minstrels specifically in the first place. Moving on, there's going to be fixed stat scaling for captain standards, but there's also for the spear, my favorite weapon in the entire game, even not just for the warden, but I like using it on other classes for some weird reason, and the bleed part of it, spear pierce, will now correctly scale with the item level. I've noticed this isn't the like most ginormous change or just suddenly makes spears OP, but it makes them a little bit more viable. It makes the bleed component of it, as it says here, scale better with level and more specifically item level. This is also kind of neat. The launcher will actually ask you to switch to the 64-bit game client if you're still using the 32-bit one, so that'll be nice to help people get shifted into the 64-bit client. And I think the final thing to highlight here is going to be some of the old LI system, the imbued LI system, some of the old fan bundles, which I guess would be ultimate fan bundles, that granted the tokens for the old LI system will now be, some of those tokens will be barterable at Rivendell, the Archive of Traceries, presumably, and you can barter those for some new LI stuff. And alright, I believe at this point that is it for the patch review for update 33 for the Lord of the Rings Online. Again, I expect this video to be up during the maintenance, and it's going to, the servers are expected to come up at 1 p.m. server time, which is Eastern time. And I know I've said this both in my previous video and now in this video more than once, but I'm going to do one last reminder: to get the anniversary gifts, you will have to log in between now and 3 a.m. Eastern on May 11th, 2022 to get that stuff. I highly recommend you do, and I'm going to be doing some experiments with that to see exactly what you get actually as a brand new account, and basically what a brand new player to the game would experience just opening up a fresh account and seeing all that you get to help you start out, and how much content you really have to play through even without spending any money on the game. So looking forward to doing that in the future, and looking forward to playing in Yondershire, and just looking forward to having more people in a more consumer-friendly monetization system with LOTRO. And on that note, I'll go ahead and wrap up this video, and I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something useful about update 33 and the Yondershire. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or becoming a channel member to support the content, and the cat that's slightly off screen. And thanks for watching, everyone.